Welcome to the Why Factor, a chance to work out why we do what we do. BBC World Service podcasts are supported by advertising.
Thank you for downloading the Why Factor on the BBC World Service. I'm Nastran Tavakoli-Far, and on this edition we'll be finding out why people keep open secrets.
My name's Cassius, the Neon Explosion. I'm wearing a silver sequin bolero, pink hot pants, which are custom made for me, by the way. They have my name on the back. And I usually wear pink tassels down my legs as well.
I'm watching two men in a wrestling ring fighting each other. They're landing punches, bouncing off the ropes and slamming each other onto the floor. There's a wrestler dressed like a tree landing a blow on a wrestler in pink hot pants. Despite the flamboyance I've just described, the men really are being aggressive to each other. But the thing is, the fighters and the promoter all know which of the men is going to win. So what's that conversation like, where it's you, the competitor, and the promoter, and You're sort of deciding who's going to win? Who makes the decision? How does that go down? Is there a negotiation or a conversation or something?
So the promoter tells you who's going to win. There's no negotiation. I mean, I wish there was. I would negotiate. No, I'm joking.
Have you tried?
No. There's a little joke backstage that some of the people, they go, oh, Cassius loves winning, so he always wants to win. But yeah, it's not about winning or losing. It's about putting on the show for people. So the promoter will come up to you and say, okay, so I want you over, and that means you're winning. Yeah. And then tells you how long he wants the match to go. Yeah.
So imagine you and I were up against each other, and it was determined that you were going to win, because you always win. Okay. How does that play out in the ring? Do you tend to decide that at one point you're going to make a certain move and then I'm going to concede? What actually goes on up there?
So the end of the match, you'll plan the finish of the match. So you kind of know, you're going to jump off the top rope and you're going to miss or something, and then we'll work out a finish from there and then we'll go do it.
Cassius!
Wrestling isn't the only place that has open secrets. They also lurk in religious organizations, in businesses, and in families as well. This is the Why Factor on the BBC World Service. I'm Nastran Tavakoli-Far, and on this edition I'm asking, why do we keep open secrets? I guess my main interest in open secrets comes from being a journalist. Journalism is all about exposing the truth and making a bit of a scene to enact change, which is why open secrets fascinate me. Why do people keep them? And what sort of ecosystem enables them to exist?
What seems to be interesting about open secrets relative to, let's say, normal secrets is a typical secret is primarily kept by a single person.
Michael Slepian is a professor of management at Columbia Business School. He's done research into the secrets people keep and has also developed a theory of secrecy.
The idea of open secrets really sort of resonates with my theory of secrecy, because the idea of an open secret sort of at first sounds like an oxymoron, but that only sounds like an oxymoron if when you hear secrecy, you hear hiding and concealment. But my theory and research suggests that secrecy is something that's far more broad than that. The larger theory of secrecy here is that if you intend to hold some piece of information back from people, that's a secret.
And so I guess an open secret allows you to at least let some other people in on it without having to
and so the idea with an open secret is, it could still feel very much like this is a thing we don't talk about and that bothers me and, that's on my mind and that burdens me, even though you don't have to actually hide it. You've done something that you don't want people to know about or had an experience that you'd rather keep to yourself, and you're sort of the primary gatekeeper of that secret. Now, if there's something like an open secret where, say, there's something happening in your workplace and, a lot of people are aware, maybe not everyone, and for the same reason we're not talking about it because it'll all blow up. Now we kind of have multiple gatekeepers where any person could speak up, any person could sort of blow the whistle, but they don't.
And what stops people from doing that?
I think people are sort of fear the backlash that might happen if someone's trying to rock the boat, even for the right reasons. I think a lot of people sort of don't want to be in that position where they're the ones who sort of change things, because things probably get worse before they get better.
Are there certain types of ecosystem that give rise to open secrets?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say the kind of environment where information kind of flows down certain conduits and not others, you know. So there's this topic in the literature called voice, and do we feel like we have voice to speak up when we see something wrong? And when people do see something wrong and they don't speak up, it's because the norms, for example, in the workplace just simply don't encourage that. It's sort of better to, you know, stay silent and do your job rather than making waves. So the kinds of places that don't have those open channels for that kind of communication, I think, would be more likely to find themselves in this situation of having an open secret.
A lot of times there's the good for the person versus the good for the group.
That's communications professor Sandra Petronio. In her career at Indiana University, she's also specialized in how people reveal secrets. She did research with children who had suffered sexual abuse to find out how they disclosed it. She says people make trade-offs, both before they break an open secret and also in the aftermath.
The open secret idea is, I think, a really important one. Like if people in a family knew that there was one member that was sexually abusing one of the children in the family and they didn't deal with it, then it's a problem for the entire family. It would be really encumbering the family to make a choice about whether or not they believed that the person in the family had been molesting a child in the family. And it's a secret that has lots of consequences.
What do you mean by this?
They know about the abuse, but they're in denial. They don't necessarily want to take on responsibilities like that, because then if their husband is the perpetrator and if a person wanted the marriage be salvaged, then there would be lots of complications about the decision to disclose that they even knew that this was going on.
Attorney Mitchell Garabedian is based in Boston, in the U.S. He spent decades representing victims of sexual abuse, including cases of sexual abuse at the hands of the clergy.
The children talked with each other. They would call priests certain names and say, stay away from so-and-so, stay away from Father Gagan, stay away from many priests. They would have nicknames. They would shy away from the priests. They would tell each other in code.
Mitchell's efforts uncovering the open secret of priests abusing children in Boston was made into an Oscar-winning film called Spotlight. The movie shows a community where everyone knew something was happening, but it was all kept under the covers. In the case against the priest John Gagan, Mitchell reached a financial settlement with the Boston Archdiocese on behalf of 86 people for over $30 million. He also ensured that plaintiffs wouldn't have to sign non-disclosure agreements. During his time with clients, he observed how this open secret was preserved.
Because there is such a stigma in society about being sexually abused, it's really a very, very big stigma. There was not much talk about a person being sexually abused amongst parents, a child being sexually abused, because there was such an attitude of, well, you're going to be tarnished for the rest of your life. You're going to be tattooed with this negative image for the rest of your life. Let's not talk about it.
But why has there been such a culture of open secrets regarding sex abuse in the Catholic Church?
When a child is sexually abused by a priest, that child who respects the priest, who is taught that the priest's voice is the voice of God on earth, that child is threatened by the priest. The child is told by the priest, if you tell anybody about the sexual abuse, your parents will burn in hell, or your parents will get divorced, or you'll be kicked out of school. And the child believes that. And then when the parent reports the sexual abuse to a pastor or monsignor or bishop, the pastor or the monsignor or bishop tells the parent, for the sake of the church, because the church does such great things and the church is God's representative on earth, you must keep this quiet. You must keep it secret, and we'll take care of the matter. Don't worry about it. And the parent believes that.
What role did the community play?
Oh, the community was really... the community was highly skeptical of me. They were highly skeptical of my work. How dare you accuse a priest of sexual abuse? How dare you accuse a priest supervisor, a pastor, a monsignor of allowing it to happen? This could not happen. These are priests. They take vows of poverty, and they do so much good for the community. So there was a lot of skepticism, a lot of negativism. There was a lot of, sometimes anger at me concerning my work. But I knew it had to be done.
Are there ways in which people in the community would sort of cover up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I filed my first cases involving Gagin, the clerk looked at me and he said, I go to St. Andrew's Church Parish. It's about time somebody did this. The community just kept the matter quiet because they were so involved with the Catholic religion. We have a concept here in the United States called cradle Catholic. That's a family that is so Catholic, and there are many cradle Catholics, who put the needs of the church before the needs of their own family, and they're taught that. So if you have $1 and you don't have any food, and the church wants that $1, you give the church that $1. That's called a cradle Catholic.
That brings us back to Sandra Petronio's idea of acting for the benefit of the group rather than for yourself.
A lot of times, there's the good for the person versus the good for the group.
This is seen in other arenas too.
I sometimes describe my role as teaching middle-aged men the difference between lying and telling the truth.
Joe Geraghty is brought in by banks to combat the problems that can result due to teams having open secrets.
We can kind of say, well, this is a lie and this is telling the truth. You know, why is that not clear? It's pretty black and white. Why are there shades of grey? And they will come with their shades of grey, which will be, well, either everybody else is doing it, I thought it was someone else's responsibility to report this. If it's not okay, I don't see it as my responsibility. You know, people have been doing this for a long time. You know, nobody's ever said to us that we can't do it. My manager does it. I'm very loyal to my manager. I think this is the right thing for the company.
Joe Geraghty has seen many grey areas in the finance industry.
Maybe, you know, it's kind of small fudging of the profit and loss on a daily basis that they think, well, it's okay because I'll correct that before month end when anybody's actually going to look at it. Or maybe telling clients that they filled an order at a certain price when that wasn't strictly true, but everybody does it. It's very common practice. It's okay. I made slightly more money on this deal than the client thinks I did. It's not even technically illegal or not permissible. It's just not completely ethical either.
How do you make people who might not care about ethics sort of care about ethics?
Again, I think it's something that's changing slowly. The old guard, as I call them, so probably people in their mid-40s and older, like me, will be retiring. They'll be moving on. They'll be doing other things. And we'll see Generation Z, so loosely described as anybody born, you know, mid-90s, you know, moving into the workplace. And research has shown that they are much more ethics-focused. They're much more purpose-focused. They will not work somewhere that they can't see has a bigger purpose than just making money. And they, you know, they're prepared to work hard. They're not necessarily in the game for shortcuts and, you know, finding other ways around. And they will be prepared to speak up, even if the rest of the team are saying, and the manager saying, no, this is the way we do it here. We've always done it this way.
So why do people keep open secrets?
That's a very big question. I think there are lots of different answers. I think the main piece is, certainly from a trading floor perspective, trading floors are highly competitive, highly charged environments where people have been hired to make money predominantly. I mean, that's their job, is to make money. And they will find any innovative, creative way that they can to do that. It's even worse, obviously, if they've been successful, they'll say, well, these behaviours and attitudes and ways of doing things have got me here. Look how successful I am. I'm a senior person in this role, making lots of money, doing really well. Look at the size of my house and my holidays and my yacht and my, so what's my driver for change?
The crowd certainly seem to have chosen their favourite.
My name is Greg Burridge. I'm the head trainer of the London School Lucha Libre. But on Lucha Britannia, I'm the king of the scrap heap, Metallico, half man, half machine.
This half-man, half-machine taught Cassius that the main aim in wrestling is not to win, but to put on a great show. Do you remember how you found out that the outcomes are predetermined?
Oh, I must have been 12, 13. I remember reading in one of the papers that the World Wrestling Federation had to declare that their quote-unquote sport was actually a form of entertainment to basically avoid either getting taxed or a federal law passed on them. So they had to basically say it was a form of entertainment. That's when I first kind of had an obvious idea that wrestling is actually a predetermined thing. But I think deep down, all kids know it's not real. Deep down.
How did you feel when you found out that it's not real?
I kind of knew. It was this confirmation of course. It's that little voice in the back of your head that goes, of course she was right. I'm not crazy, it's not real. So for me, it wasn't a bad thing to realise that wrestling wasn't real. It was actually a good thing because a lot of my unanswered questions as a child, my sleepless nights were finally answered with certain lingering questions of why is he doing that? That move doesn't make sense because of this. How is it when he's giving him a move and drops him on his head, they're both staying down? And all these different silly little technical questions were answered. So it made me feel like I wasn't crazy.
So for years, before it became official that the outcomes are predetermined, it was kind of an open secret, right? So why was that? Why did everyone sort of know but not sort of openly acknowledge the outcomes are predetermined?
Exactly the same reason that mums and dads don't tell Father Christmas isn't real. I think it's exactly the same thing because you want to keep a child's innocence for as long as possible.
The moment which Greg talks about was on the 10th of February 1989. The World Wrestling Federation declared to the New Jersey State Senate that wrestling was about entertainment anyway. They did that so that they could remove wrestling from the Athletics Commission regulations. It meant they wouldn't be obliged to have referees, licenses, or timekeepers from the athletics authorities, or to have to pay a tax to them. So, for financial reasons, it was worth it for the WWF to reveal this open secret. But sometimes the weight of knowing something with explosive potential just becomes too much. In fact, living with a secret can be harmful to your health, says Columbia Business School's Michael Slepian, whom we heard from earlier.
What we find in our research is that what's harmful about secrecy is not having to hide it. It's having to think about it. It's having to live with it and be alone with it.
Michael says people make a trade-off, working out what's worse, the burden of having this secret going round and round in their head, or what they imagine could happen to them if they tell.
People want to do something, I think, often, but they're sort of afraid of the consequences of speaking up.
Sandra Petronio says that in the case of children and sexual abuse, children often carefully test the waters to see if it's safe to tell the truth, and to whom.
They would tell a little bit to a person, and then they would wait to see what they did with that information. And if they met the threshold of seriously helping the child, then they would tell a little bit more and a little bit more until they made a full disclosure. The children looked at tacit permission to tell. If somebody said, "Are you doing okay today?" they could discern that that person was on their side. They would take that opportunity to work through perhaps that they might want to tell that person the next time they saw that person. and they would not tell any adult anything unless they were not making eye contact with them. They would do it when they were helping their parents after dinner wash the dishes, if they were cleaning their pool or in a car, as long as they didn't have to look at the adult because that made them feel uncomfortable.
And with adults, Michael says another calculation is also made.
People are trying to do that cost-benefit calculation, and, sometimes it might seem like, well, why would I have to be the person to speak up? Any person can speak up. Why should I be the one to throw all this chaos sort of in front of me? And it's a totally reasonable suggestion. It's kind of like a commons dilemma problem. One solution perhaps is banding up with other people so you're not in it alone. Another is to really closely investigate what channels are possible. A lot of organizations have employee relations departments where the specific purpose is to bring these kinds of things to the table, which can be handled in a discreet and, practical way.
It seems people keep open secrets because they're in denial. Open secrets serve as a way of keeping the peace between various parties. They exist when people simply don't want to look at the reality of a situation and to have to take any responsibility for it, or to have to deal with any subsequent consequences. Be it in a family or a church or even with a demanding boss, open secrets allow everyone to pretend that a certain situation simply didn't happen. The stakes are especially high if the open secret pertains to people's very identities. It's hard to acknowledge the truth when it may question an entire industry, a community's whole way of life due to its religious beliefs, or if it may threaten cherished ideas people have about members of their own families. And open secrets will continue in a climate where people don't think they'll be believed if they speak openly about a situation. This episode of The Why Factor was presented by me, Nasran Tavakoli-Farr, and was produced by Claire Spencer. The editor was Andrew Smith, and the sound engineer was Graham Puddifoot. If you enjoyed this, you may also like our episodes asking why do we eavesdrop and why do we have conspiracy theories. For Cassius, we heard that the secret is out that the wrestlers know who's going to win. He, for one, hoped his promoter would tell him that he'd be winning that night. But other forces took control, as an over-aggressive throw by a wrestler whose character was a tree led him to genuinely getting hurt in the ring.
Cassius!
Goes against the ropes, hooks him up, spins him round.
Timber!
He spins him round once, he spins him round twice. A blow to the shoulder. And the shoulder has been damaged. It's going to take him longer to recover.